Consistency. The thing that separates the boys from the men, results from not, long-term results, and the constant yo-yo. But it's really easy to be like, oh, just be consistent. Just follow through. Just do the work. Like most things are easier said than done. And this seems to be one of the questions that I'm getting at the moment. So I'm creating a series. So if you missed the last 2 days, please go back and watch them. I actually think there's some deeply, deeply powerful stuff in that. But today, what I wanted to cover was habit stacking. Now, this can take on many different roles, many different formats, and it depends on where you want to cover it. Now, if you wanted to get into a really great book, Atomic Habits by James Clear is a fantastic fucking read to talk about habits, building habits, those kind of life choices. But one of the simplest versions that we can cover right here, right now, is habit stacking. So when you're building the consistency of it, when you're building out, trying to make new habits, there's a lot of BS, a lot of bullshit out there about how to build habits, on the methodology to use and all this kind of stuff. I think we've all heard, it takes 21 days to build a habit, all that kind of stuff. No. From everything I've read, everything I've seen, and my own, doing this for a really, really long period of time, it takes 126 days, without an exception, to replace a negative habit with a positive habit. So there's 126 days with no days off. Part of the reason why I think a lot of people fuck this up, and I spoke about this yesterday, was that you have breaks. You take the weekends off, or, you do it for a day, you take a day off. You do it for a day, you take a day off. So trying to build those habits into really defined skills, every time that you don't follow through on that habit, you are going back to the start, and your body is geared towards the most comfortable state. So neurons that fire together, wire together. So if you've already established these habits, if you've already built these habits out in terms of comfort and ease and those kinds of things, and they've been ingrained for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, and then you do it for 2 days or 5 days, and then you take 2 days off, what do you think you're going to revert back to? You're going to revert back to the habits you had previously. You're going to revert back to that comfortable state, that known state. And there are much deeper things associated with this. We're more attracted to a known hell than an unknown heaven, is one that we talk about quite frequently. You're more likely on a psychological level to stick with something that you find really uncomfortable, something that you do not enjoy, something that, a place you don't want to be, because you know the outcome of doing that, versus even though you know this will deliver a positive thing, you know that it will deliver what you want, but you've never been there before, so it's an unknown. We as human beings are attracted to known entities. So we are more likely to stick with things that we know and understand. So this becomes that first step towards, what life choices are you going to make? So when it comes to that, as I said, habit stacking is a great way to build out your consistency. It is a great tool to push you forward and do what is necessary. So simplest versions of this, and I had a guy comment, and I think it's a really great one, he was habit stacking on a negative one. So he was trying to break it with a negative one, and there's a pattern interrupt, which is different to habit stacking. But he had it on, every time he doom scrolls, he had to do a push-up. What a great concept. So he's going to gain benefit from it, he's going to improve his life, and he's going to associate when he sits down to doom scroll, no, I have to change the state. And doing something like a push-up, squat, any type of movement is a pattern interrupt. But that's a different story altogether. We want to build consistency by stacking onto habits. So let's take going to the gym, for example. Look at how your morning is structured, or your afternoon, or whatever it might be. But morning is often the simplest one. Most people will follow the same sequence every single day. They'll get up and do the same thing every single day. And that usually will look like, let's just make an example. So you get up, take a piss, go make yourself a coffee, right? So if you wanted to habit stack on the back end of adding a movement to that, what you could do is, well, while the coffee's brewing, do 20 squats, or 20 push-ups, build out a circuit and do that, whatever it might be. But you have a pre-established habit that is ingrained into you. This is what you do, this is who you are. Now, on the back end of that trigger that is really, really heavily ingrained into you, you attach something positive to it. So it might be that you have to start your day with the coffee. So now it's that coffee, you make that coffee and you head instantly out the door. So that trigger portion has already been established. So now you go, coffee's in a to-go cup, I then go into my car and I go to the gym. So you have a trigger that is positive, well, here's your coffee, is heavily ingrained, and then you're stacking onto the back end of that something else you want to do. And what you'll find is that you'll have all these triggers and habits that are so heavily ingrained that you aren't even aware of them. And most of them are negative. So you want to attach onto the back end of something that is what you want to keep with you. It's the same as like we habitually eat rather than eat when we're hungry. If you've ever done any fasting, for example, I've done 48 hours, 72 hours, I've even done 5 and 7 day fasts. The time that I struggle the most is when I head home from work at the end of the day. There is a trigger that goes, now it's time to eat. I'm not hungry. I'm not actually needing the food, but that's a sequence of events that I go, I am heading home. When I head home, I warm up food and I have dinner. A sequence of events. And your brain will just fall into habits. It's why if you're also, it's on the breaking a habit and it's slightly different to consistency, you want to change the sequence if you're trying to break the habit. If you go, I always come home from work and I go straight and I sit on the couch, you need to change the environment. You need to change the sequence. You need to change the triggers that are associated with that so that you can set yourself up in a different pathway to get different results. Because for as long as you continue to have that same sequence of events, it's going to be an uphill battle. And it's why you can, as I said, if you have the positive ones and you tack it onto the end, suddenly things move a lot simpler for you. And you'll have to find the one that works best for you. You'll have to find, and I would suggest in this process, especially if it's something that's going to be uncomfortable, like working out, like building a new habit, like building the consistency of change, I would attach it to something that's heavily ingrained, something that has a at least positive or enjoyment factor in it, and that will be easily stacked onto. And simpler ones which are less of that is, get everything ready the night before. Habit stack by removing the barrier to entry. Have all your clothes ready, have all your gym gear ready, have everything set up, you make your coffee, you grab your gym bag and you leave. You've removed the barriers to entry, you've removed the chimp brain jumping in and causing chaos in it. It's just you're going. And if you remove the barriers to entry and you stack it with that positive habit, you'll find that it flows a lot easier. And then soon you'll find that, I have my coffee and I go to the gym. That's now your trigger. Now you have that and you'll find the association and you'll miss it when it's not there. If you keep doing it, and again, this comes back to what I said yesterday, I firmly believe, and there is, strong evidence suggests that this is true, that you need to do it every single day. So that you train your mind, you train your subconscious patterning, you train your programming, that every time I do X, Y happens. So you want to have that you can't have the days off. You can't have the weekend moment where it's like, I had my coffee, but I didn't go to the gym. So you're breaking that habit, you're breaking the pattern, you're breaking the cycle, and you're fucking yourself up with that decision. I get it, I understand. As a societal thing, that's what we're built to. But we're not trying to fit into society. We're trying to stand out. We're trying to demand greatness. We're trying to be the greatest version of ourselves. So we need to play a different game. We need to play a different version. Now you work out every fucking day. You want to build consistency? Do it every single day. Build it on the back end. And it can be your coffee. It could be at the end of the day. It could be on your way home from work. I don't know what it is. You find the habit and the sequence that works for you. You find the thing that you do every day, because you'll have a whole fucking bunch of them that you do every day without thinking, without thought process. You just get in and it happens every day. Well, now stack your gym onto it. Now stack your nutrition onto it. Now stack whatever it is that you're trying to build into a consistent thing. But again, I would make sure that it is absolutely every single day, because then you're not sending mixed signals. Neurons that fire together wire together. You want them to fire together over and over and over and over and over again. It's called 126 to greatness for a reason. That the first phase is 126 days, because it takes 126 days without fail, without exception, without a miss, without a drop step or anything. Step back, that you do it every single day to wire that together, for that to become habitual, to build that consistency. So attach to the back end of your positive habits that you already have. And then you'll find that it starts triggering it much easier. So for example, I use the coffee as the example because that's what I do. Whenever I work out, I drink coffee. So every time I go make a pot of coffee, I'm like, oh, I need to go work out. That's that trigger point to me now. It's like, oh, I'm going to make coffee, I'm going to work out. You build that association, and you do it frequently enough, you wire it together frequently enough, and suddenly you're like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. And that's how you build those habits to become more consistent with you. Now, as I said, this will take time. It takes 126 days. And you can't fucking miss during those 126 days. But if you start attaching it to build the consistency, and you go in with the mindset that I'm going to do this every single day for 126 days, you'll find that the consistency starts to flow, that you start to build momentum. And never, never underestimate the power of momentum and let the momentum drop. If you do this, you'll find that your consistency goes through the roof, and you'll start to see the results that stack on top of each other, and the stack and build and build and build, and you deliver incredible fucking results for yourself. So that's all I have for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with another one on building consistency. But until then, keep demanding greatness.